Welcome to Nitpicking Nerds. Today is a guide to Taplands.
We're going to show you how to find the optimal Taplands for your commander deck.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. If you're enjoying seeing us more and more lately, doing guides to stuff, give us a subscription, and then we know to do more.
And besides, you want to be subscribed to this channel because our subscribers are 10% more likely to get tapped.
I don't really get this joke, but I'm going to say the Nitpicking Nerds can't guarantee that because I can't guarantee nothing.
That might be the dirtiest joke we've done on the channel.
I thought you meant a tapped land. What do we mean by tapped lands, Joe Cherries?
Taplands, lands that always enter the battlefield tapped. A shock land can be a tap land, but when you have a choice, it's not. Or if a land, say there's a condition like controlling two basics with whatever they're called, the battle lands, then in that case, those aren't tap lands because they have the ability to come in untapped.
Yeah, we're talking about lands that there's just no chance by itself the card will enter tapped. That is what we're talking about.
Exactly. So non-budget decks. How many tap lands should you play on average?
Right. So we're going to do a section of non-budget where you just care about power level. And then we're going to do a section about budget where obviously the priorities shift a bit. So for non-budget, I'm saying optimized commander decks really don't want tap lands if they can afford it. There's like the ones that have super huge synergy, or they go with the commander, or they're just too strong not to include. Those are the ones that typically go in. And I would say that I checked every deck that we have. We play, for reference, we were at like, what, 85% power level?
85, 90, depends on how you look at it. Yep.
Below CDH, above casual. So our average number of tap lands is 4.8. And there was an outlier of one of our decks at 11.
Which deck was that?
My mono white deck.
Oh, okay, your mono white deck because, okay.
Yeah, that's a little bit different. So realistically, it's probably somewhere around 4.
Okay, so
4 tap lands.
Yeah, so an average of like 4 tap lands. So most of our lands are essentially in the battlefield untapped, which is ideal because it keeps you essentially from falling a turn behind. If all your lands enter the battlefield tapped, you will fall a turn behind because you'll be playing everything. Your 2-mana spells will be played on turn 3. Your 3-mana spells 4. It's like you push everything up a turn and that puts you behind.
And if EDH is only 9 turns or 10 turns, then you might just lose because of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're talking about marginal advantage here, but when you're playing to win, you'll take any possible advantage you can get, especially one that's a free roll. If your deck is all tap lands and you can just cut them all for untapped lands, just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah, obviously, we've talked about this before, but if you're on a budget, you can really go high on tap lands because you should focus on making your deck function as a deck rather than just getting all the lands and having a non-functional deck.
We'll talk about that later in the budget section.
Okay.
But first, this is tap lands we include, even at a higher power level, they're quote-unquote worth it to make the jump from casual to competitive, we'll say, or at least, tuned.
In some decks. So start with Mirrored Landscape, Cross and Verge. These are both lands that enter tapped, and they essentially, you pay to tap, sack them, and you go and get either basics. Cross and Verge can get dual lands, which is cool. Get the plains and the forest. And Mirrored Landscape has to get lands that share a type. So these are both, they both are ramp on a land, which is rare. You don't really see that very often in very many places, so that's cool. And on top of that, Cross and Verge is really good. It can go get like Temple Garden and
a breeding pool.
A breeding pool. It can get you blue. Like that's awesome.
Cross and Verge fixes, and Mirrored Landscape is not green. There's no tie to the color green on it, which just means, oh hey, my blue deck can play ramp now, and it costs no spell slots.
Yeah, essentially I put Mirrored Landscape in most of my decks that do not have green.
Yeah, I think I play it in almost every deck. There's not in green decks though.
Yeah, obviously it enters tapped, but it ramps you, so it can make up for that later in the game. Like obviously, if you play it turn 1 and you had no plays, then it's great. If you play it and then maybe it might make you miss a play or two, but later in the game it's going to put you had to maybe double spell on a turn that you would want to double spell.
Also, this land just is like it is a spell, right? I'm playing a spell and the cost being tapped. That's okay because the spell is worth it.
Yes. Next, BZ's favorite land, Field of the Dead. It enters tapped, but whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 lands with different names, then you get a 2/2 zombie.
Fun fact, just while we're here, this is the reason that Mono White deck has 11 tap lands. A lot of them are just different names to get for Field of the Dead because it's a token deck. But I love this card so much. It is the spell. It's another spell. Like it's totally worth finding this, tutoring it, like actively building around it because it just gives you 2/2s for 0 mana.
Yeah, it's a free roll in a lot of decks. because you don't really have to pay a cost. Like obviously the mono white deck pays some cost because it does put more tap lands in, so makes it a little slower. But often if you play a deck, if you're playing 3 colors, and it's a lands matter deck, it's not a cost at all.
Right, we're talking about like a vacuum. Like this is one of my only 5 tap lands. Okay, yeah, rock and roll, let's go.
Yeah, and you can even afford to. So we tend to play around 36 lands a lot in the deck. So if with this Field of Dead, you can just put it, if you really want to be safe, because it is colorless and maybe like a 4-color deck or a 3-color deck, you could slot it into a spell slot and feel good about it because, one, you're upping your land count, so it's not too bad. I mean, we don't go crazy on lands. We always talk about that here. And you put it in a spell slot. Now it's like, okay, yeah, now this land doesn't count as a land, so I know that if I draw this colorless land, it wasn't like drawing a real land. It was like drawing a spell, basically.
Yeah, it's the same exact argument for Maze of Ith when that card used to see play. Not so much anymore, but it was, well, don't really treat it as a land because it doesn't have 4 mana, but you have to play it as a land. Just treat it as a spell.
Yeah, exactly. What's the next one?
Next up is Mirror Pool. It's a land that enters tapped, makes colorless, or you can pay 2 and a Wingding and sacrifice it to copy an instant or sorcery spell you control, or you can pay 4 and a Wingding and sack it to put a token that's a copy of a creature onto the battlefield that you control.
This one's interesting. It's unique in that it can make a token copy of any creature. So this goes in cool decks like
Brutaclad.
Anything that cares about tokens. So maybe if you're playing like a Reese the Redeemed deck,
it's a fringe card. This isn't like
yeah.
Man, if you're playing a deck, you probably want Mirror Pool in it. Just think about the basic stuff like I need colorless sources. I care about tokens. I care about copying my spells because it's a spell in a land slot.
Yeah. This one doesn't have, again, this is, you'll know when you want it. It's not like a ton of decks. It's weird because it's not like a ton of decks want this, but it is very playable in the decks that do want it.
Totally. Hall of the Bandit Lord and Boseiju are lands that enter tapped, and you pay life. And Hall of the Bandit Lord is 3 life for a creature to gain haste if you spent that mana, and Boseiju is 2 life for a instant or sorcery spell not being able to be countered.
Yeah, both of these are very nice if you're playing in a high counter spell thing. Boseiju is awesome. If you're playing, in a deck where your commander wants haste, Hall of the Bandit Lord's awesome. I usually like to that land I usually stick to if my commander wants haste.
Yeah, it's a spell you have every game, and you can always play it on turn 3, so you go, all right, if I have Hall of the Bandit Lord, it has haste, and that's great for me. Boseiju, definitely the more competitive of those two, where if you're in the higher tier where you don't want your spells to be countered, like a blue-red deck or something, probably go with that.
Next, Lotus Field. This is a land that enters the battlefield tapped, and you sacrifice 2 other lands when it enters, and it taps. It is a Black Lotus. It just taps for 3 mana. It doesn't sacrifice stuff.
Gilded Lotus.
It's like a Gilded Lotus.
And it's hexproof, so they can't acidic slime it.
It is absolutely super important because there is another version of this card that does not have hexproof and is unplayable.
It will get you every time with Argo's Quarters.
I absolutely cannot. If there's a card I want to advocate against, it's the card Scorched Ruin, because I have talked about it comes up a lot in our play group because one of our friends plays it. I advocate against that card so hard because it's a 3/4 every time they strip mine you. You have to sacrifice 2 lands, and then it gets strip mined, and now you've lost those 2 lands, and you're scorched. Ugh, that card's awful. Lotus Field having hexproof though, that's much more reasonable.
Right, and it'll go into, you want your lands to die? Well, here's a land that kills your own lands for no downside.
Oh, there's a lot of reasons for playing this card. You want your lands to die. Maybe you have ways to untap it.
Yeah, you want to untap. You got Garruk Wildspeaker, Kiora, Satyr Voyaging Satyr.
What's Kiora's follower?
Kiora's follower. I was saying the 3-mana Kiora.
Yeah.
That just untaps.
Well, I was saying Kiora's follower. There's a bunch of different things that can just untap a permanent. You untap that land, it's awesome. Because now it's producing, instead of producing an extra 1 mana, it's an extra 3, which is great.
Wow, you went through that real fast. You're like,
blah, blah, blah.
You stormed off.
I stormed off.
Path of Ancestry. Are you a tribal deck? This is worth it. If you're 3 or more colors, tribal deck, or in any way you might not in a tribal deck. But it's tapped 5-color land. If you cast a card that shares a creature type with your commander, you scry 1. This includes your commander.
Yes. So when you cast your commander, you scry 1. This is a reasonable card. Path of Ancestry. It comes in tapped, which is obviously what we're talking about. I don't know. I was going to say that like it wasn't like all these don't come in tapped.
Just so you know, this one specifically
comes in extra tap. It's basically an extra copy of Command Tower, but it enters tapped.
Yeah, don't discount the tapped Command Tower part of this. A lot of tribal synergies make you pay something and the card's worse for it paying off tribal, but this one is just kind of like a free roll on that tribal part, so I consider it.
Yeah, consider it in your tribal decks. Next, 1 mana cycling lands. Also, just to throw it right in, Amonkhet cycling lands. Those are dual lands that enter tapped and have types. So those are fetchable. The 1 mana ones are great in specifically if you're going to be playing like one color, because now you have lots of slots and lands to work with when you're playing one color. They cycle for like one green, one blue, one red, whichever one it is, and you just redraw. But early game, you might just want to play a tapped on turn 1 when you have nothing to do. These are versatility. It's rare that your land can just draw you a card.
Oh yeah, I don't want my secluded steppe, lonely sandbar, barren moor, forgotten cave, or tranquil thicket on turn 8. Guess what? It's just another card for like almost no investment.
Yeah, and also the moving on to the Amonkhet ones. Those are, again, types, so they're fetchable, which is awesome. And they cycle for 2 mana, these ones. Also just great. I mean, and it's the same thing for the Ikoria Triomes. These are even better because they give you, Triomes are obviously 3 things. People were already playing plenty of the come into play tapped Tri-lands.
I don't know necessarily if I agreed with that, but they were definitely playing a ton of them, and these are strictly better.
Yeah, I'm not saying exactly. I wasn't saying that we were playing them. I'm saying people were playing them. They were seeing tons of play, and now these are way better. Fetchable, cycle. Oh, these cards are they're very good.
My Sun Petal Grove enters untapped because I have a teamer trial. Like, well, that's insane.
Yeah,
that's just crazy benefit, and you can Wood Elves an Abzan one and just feel amazing about your life. I love the Ikoria Triomes. Next, we're going to get real specific now. These are just specific cards. Mistveil Plains. It enters tapped, and if you control 2 white permanents, you can pay white, tap, and put a card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. This is a nifty one. I think Mono White and Boros might want to consider this. It's cute little ways to be able to re-tutor your best cards. Oh, I lost my Skull Clamp. Well, stick it on the bottom and Light and Tutor, then get it back.
Yeah, it's a tool for certain decks. It's okay. It is fetchable, which gives it a little bit of a boost, but it's just it's okay. I don't know how else to put it because this card I'm not excited about.
It's not the best, but I will say Sunforger, baby. That's how you get them.
It does work well with Sunforger. Next, we have Talaria West, which has Transmute for 1 blue, and what Transmute is you look for a card with the same converted mana cost as it and put it in your hand. So it's a tutor for 0 drops. It gets lands. You can get like Lotus Petal, stuff like that. Storm decks love this card. Shoot ton. I didn't almost say anything.
A surefire poop ton.
A surefire poop ton. Yeah, they sure do love that card.
Yeah, boy howdy. Yeah, it's actually a spell most of the time, and then sometimes you play it as a land. Like, oh, I'll get my Hangerback Walker. Excuse me while I go get my Walking Ballista. Like all these nonsense. Summoner's Pact can be found with this thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Talaria West is super strong. Dakmor Salvage. More powerful in the graveyard, but it enters tapped and it has Dredge 2, which means if you don't play it, now it's just every once in a while, you're not dying to Dredge 2, especially if you can Dredge 6 or something, but it'll be in the graveyard and you just go, oh, I'll mill 2 instead and put this dumb thing back in my hand.
It can let you hit a land drop if you need to. Say you're playing a deck that mills itself a lot, which you probably are if you're playing Dakmor Salvage. Now all of a sudden you're like, okay, I really need to hit a land drop to like make sure I get up to 6 on time. So you can just draw that, basically replace your draw, get a land, and mill 2 more, which is going to help you because you're obviously playing some sort of synergy deck with it. Otherwise, don't play it if you don't have synergies.
Yeah, if you're just a black-red vampire deck, just don't play Dakmor Salvage.
Yeah.
Bajuko Bog, though, probably one in your black-red vampire deck. This is one of the best ones even on this list. It is, I would say, the tap land that like perseveres the most as people get higher and higher up. It's one of the last tap lands you cut because it's so good. It enters tap, makes a black, and exiles someone's graveyard.
Oh yeah, this card's very, very good. I do hate. The thing is, it's either the first land I play, or it tends to be the last land I play in my hand because I want to hold it as long as possible.
You want to make the spell as good as it can be.
Yeah, it's like I do have to. I have, and for the best part about this card is, if you do play it on turn 1, you get to go exile your graveyard, even though they have nothing in it.
You still have to. Definitely have to. Or you can get a fetch land and they just roll their eyes. No, exile it. Exile that Wooded Foothills. Thank you. Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle, which I just learned, it's just never been reprinted. Since Zendikar, right?
Really?
Can you think of one? I didn't see any.
I mean,
it's just from Zendikar. But anyway, it enters tapped.
Okay.
Mountains now, when you have a bunch of mountains, they start dealing 3 damage. This is a spell. You can get out a bunch of lands at once, and then Valakut sees them all and goes 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3.
Yeah, it's a finisher in a lot of decks. It is just a tap mountain. If you're playing a mono red deck, this is a free roll. Absolutely the freest roll ever. You're already playing a poop ton. I'm not going to say bad words.
Surefire poop ton. Like 20 mountains,
Surefire
right?
poop ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, this is a free roll. Card is very good. Again, it's an awesome win con when you're playing Escape Shift type deck or Lands Matter.
And you can just play, all right, I played a Tapland turn 1, guys, but now randomly on turn 7 and above, I'm going to lightning bolt a creature for free every turn.
Yeah.
So sweet.
Yeah, this sweet. Next, Mosswort Bridge. I'm going to include with Mosswort Bridge, what's the white one called?
Winds Brisk Heights.
Winds Brisk Heights. I'm going to include that one too because that one's also decent in mono white decks. So they're both Hideaway lands, which, if you didn't know, Hideaway actually makes your land enter tapped. It is the Hideaway ability on the card that makes enter tapped. It is so weird.
So dumb.
Why is that true? I don't know. You look at the top 4, you exile it face down under it, essentially. And then if you attack with 3 or more creatures with the
white one,
then you can pay 1 and tap the land to play with that card for free, whatever it is. And Mosswort Bridge is controlling creatures with power, or combined power of 10.
Yeah, 10 or greater. Those are both like, we're talking about spells in your lands. This is literally a spell in your deck that you already included in your from your land for free. If you can trigger it, totally consider playing these because it's a draw card on a land and you cheat mana on a land.
Yeah, very good. I mean, yeah, if you can cheat, sometimes you can cheat huge big spells. I remember that it was funny. So BZ made like a foolish mistake. He, for no reason, put under Teferi's Protection. Which, when is that ever going to be relevant in combat while you're attacking?
Oh, under the white one? Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, and then you said, I don't know why I did this. And then I don't know what came up, but you ended up attacking, and while you were attacking, like, I think someone might have cast a Cyclonic. It's like, oh
yeah,
this helps. This actually is going to work.
I actually just wrecked them. I'm like, oh, I'm actually the best player I've ever met.
Actually a genius.
Oh, boy. All right, next. Creature lands. There's at least 15 of these that enter tapped. There's the 10 from Zendikar that all become elementals, and then there's the 5 that are like a 1/5 Vigilance, Treetop Village, Forbidding Watchtower. They are all fine. But when we talk about tuning our decks, I want synergy or I don't care.
And I don't even know where you want to play these. I remember including them in early decks before I really knew what I was doing, but after I haven't included them in a while. I play one in
Yuriko. It has synergy.
Yuriko, because it has synergy of like, one, it can help you make your land drop sometimes because you can bounce it back to your hand with Yuriko.
Yeah.
But that's like the only like and Creeping Tar Pit's in that. So I played 2 actually.
Wait, what was the you talking about Fairy Conclave? I was talking about Creeping Tar Pit.
Yeah, Fairy Conclave and Creeping Tar Pit are both in the deck because that deck actually it always wants to have creatures, and sometimes you get wiped and it's like, well, if I have it in my land slot, now no one can stop it.
Yeah, there's very fringe corner cases for probably all of them. Elemental Tribal, obviously, for all those. Any keyword like Double Strike, Death Touch, the ones that you want. What was I saying? Oh, there's a combo with like some of the ones where you pay X or 0 and you flip its power and toughness, or you make it +0/+0 until end of turn.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff you can do. Just real quick, what do you think the best one of the 10 dual creature lands is?
In EDH?
Yeah.
Specifically?
I'm thinking Hissing Quagmire, because it just blocks. Like, that might be the best. Like, what else are we doing?
I mean, Creeping Tar Pit
is pretty good.
It's being an unblockable creature is pretty good. I mean, there's probably more synergies with that than anything else.
Probably. All right, so moving on. Last one. Orin Reef the Vastwood. We're going to say +1/+1 counter deck. Green creatures? Yes. Anything else? No, why would you?
Yeah, that's really simple. All right, moving on. We're going to budget now. We're going to talk all about budget. This means you're restricted. Your power level is lower. You don't have the money to throw into EDH, or your collection is not huge. So here's where you should start looking in the Tapland section, because you need to be stingy.
Well, the priority is your deck has to function. So guess what? I need duels over just playing 40 basics. That's like untenable. I would never do that. Ugh, it's cringy because you can just get so many lands for so cheap that you might as well play. You know, we're saying here, I would probably still want to go below 15 tap lands.
Yes. Yeah. If you can. Obviously, if you can't, if you're on a huge budget, I would actually just I wouldn't even mind a deck having like 30 tap lands if I am able to cast my spells. God, that's so much more important than being able to than having a bunch of basics and missing colors. That is awful.
Let's be clear then. How about 2 colors or 1 color? I don't think you should be going above 15, but if maybe 3 or 4, if you're getting real ambitious with the budget, maybe, throw those throw a bunch of random duels in there. Yeah, a bunch of tap duels.
Exactly. That's actually exactly what I meant. Like, when you're getting into like more colors, you want to make sure you have your colors, because it's super important for functioning as a player in the game.
Yes, and for official data points, I checked the backlog of Nitpicking Nerds budget builds, because we've done a couple of those now. They average 8 to 12 always tapped duels.
Okay, so the best ones, these are very cheap right now, actually, and that's great because they've been reprinted so many times. I'm actually sick of seeing them in standard. That's how many times I've seen them. The Theros Scrylands, they're just Scrylands. They come in tapped, and when they enter, you scry. They're dual lands, tapped, scry one.
Marginal upside.
Very marginal upside, but it is the most upside you can really get on these. The game one life is rough most of the time comparatively, but this is way better than gaining one life.
You can potentially, as some people say, draw a card if you put a complete brick on the bottom. Well, you just filtered a whole card through your deck, which is, there's value in that. Slow fetches we have, they are exactly the allied fetches, except they enter tapped and you don't pay a life, and then you fetch for a swamp or a mountain.
Yeah, and we talked about another thing that we talked about earlier, Tri-lands. They come in tapped. They make 3 different colors. These are fine.
There's 10 of them.
Yeah, there's 10 of them. When you're on a budget, get these. They're totally reasonable. How many can you play in a 4-color deck? I'm just curious.
Well, you need to exclude 5, right? 4, yeah, because it'll be.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not even. I think you might have to exclude 6 of them.
I think it's 4.
Let's say, so in the allied ones, you have to like if you're not playing white, you exclude Bant, Naya, and Esper, and Jeskai and Abzan. So maybe it's 5.
Okay, so you can play half of them.
And Mardu. Nope. So you play 4.
Oh, you get to play 4 of them.
Yeah, you play 4 out of 10 in your 4-color deck.
Yeah, BZ smart. I'm not.
It's up here. It's all up here.
The Amonkhet Deserts, they cost 1 in whatever color they produce, and they cycle. These are cycling lands. They're very cheap. I mean, Amonkhet.
They're commons. They're worthless. Go pick them up because they're obviously, it goes a little bit without saying, every single card we mentioned in the first part completely transfers over. There is no point where if those cards are good in a competitive deck, they would not also be even better in your budget deck.
Yes.
For everything we just mentioned.
Yeah, we're just talking about specifically, I mean, those ones are pretty cheap though.
The deserts, yeah, you can have desert synergies too.
Well, the 1-mana cyclers.
Oh yeah, Barrenmore and Friends, they're really cheap. They've been printed a million times. But I want to say, Creature Lands again, we're going to talk about them different. They're now amazing. They're some of your best duels. They have crazy upside on this thing that costs 50 cents or 5 cents and actually can do something.
Yeah. I still don't like Creature Lands. I don't know.
They go way up for budget.
They do go way up for budget. I don't know. Creature Lands make me. I mean, if I don't have synergies, I want to avoid these. I don't know.
Really? Like your Rakdos super budget deck, you're not going to play Lava Claw Reaches?
I might.
It's just so much better than a Guildgate.
That is fair. It is way better than a Guildgate. Bounce lands with synergies most of the time. But I don't mind bounce lands too much because if you're on a budget and you're in a budget play group where you're not going to see strip mines everywhere.
No, yeah.
This card's totally reasonable. These cards are totally reasonable because they do have an extra upside. They come in tapped. They tap for 2. So anything that can untap these or take advantage of those is already awesome. Also, they do allow you to make an extra land drop essentially because if you only have 2 lands, it essentially you have 3 lands. There's upside to these lands. There's obviously downside as you go up because land destruction becomes strip mine becomes much more common in almost every deck once you hit competitive type stuff.
Well, if you want a metagame, any Nitpicking Nerds budget deck's going to have a Ghost Quarter in it. So, just get them. Just destroy one of their lands with that for free. We also have the Jumpstart Thriving Lands. They're new lands from Jumpstart. They're worthless. I checked because they are from Jumpstart, so I wasn't sure. But they enter tapped. Let's say the blue one. Enters tapped, and you choose another color, and it taps for blue and that color. Blue or that color. So if you're a 3-color deck, these are amazing.
Yeah, these are completely and totally reasonable because they get you the color that you need every time. They're obviously going to be a black one that taps for whatever color you choose. These are fine. Entering tapped obviously is their downside, as we've been talking about this whole video.
Weird, yeah, but these they're different because you can't miss. If you have 2 Thriving Lands, there's nothing. You're just set. Your deck is good. Your 3-color deck, you're not going to miss any colors, and it's way different than even in 5-color deck. I'm wondering how you can compare these to a Tri-land in a 5-color deck. It's close.
Yeah, it is an interesting conversation to be at.
But not here.
But not here. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's one that I don't know if we can go too much into. It's just I don't really have either side of the argument.
You have to know the deck.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly a great point. So we're going to jump into traps.
Our favorite part. The traps. This is now going back to, we're not talking about budget because we're just talking about, in general, we kind of hate these lands.
Yes. So, oh my God.
This is the best one.
First one is the one we hate on the most. And there's maybe one deck the one that the person that went into tax, you can play odd spells off the top. That's about it. It's the only
Read the land.
It's
They don't know what you're talking about.
Halimar Depths. It is a tapped island, but it's not even an island. It does not have a type.
Hey, don't hype it up.
Yeah. It's a tapped land that produces blue only blue. And when it comes in, you can rearrange the top 3 cards of your library. Not scry, just rearrange them.
Not card advantage. It's not worth kind of entering tapped. I wouldn't play it in budget. I could care less about this land. And this is honestly the stand-in for every land that doesn't quite do enough that I can't. It's just pointless to mention them all. But Soaring Sea Cliff is another. It's a monocolor tap land that does not cycle and enters and does something super marginal. Like even in limited, you're like, I don't think this is worth replacing an island with. So I would recommend straying away from basically any single color land that enters tapped and like doesn't cycle.
Yeah, Halimar Depths I think is just absolutely awful. I don't even see it. I can't stand it. I wouldn't want to put it in like any deck. Like I don't want to put it in. So, Yuriko, the Tiger Shadow, cares about the top card of your library. I don't want to play this card. This card's still butts.
Yeah, and obviously to rephrase, I don't mean don't play any. Like don't play. I'm not saying don't play Valak. We're talking about if the spell is not even close to being worth it. Like give a creature flying or stare at the top 3 cards of your library.
Yeah, it's like make your turn 3 play into your turn 4 play.
Cool.
Got me.
Right. I also want to hate a little bit on Rupture Spire and Transguild Promenade. In a budget 5 color, yeah, rock and roll, go crazy. But anywhere else, I just get frustrated seeing them because I'm like, why? You have like a Glacial Fortress. Like, why is this in your deck?
Isn't there a 3rd version of this now?
I want to say yes, but I don't know what it is.
It's the Guildgate, right?
That's Transguild Promenade.
No, there's another one then.
Oh, Gateway Plaza. Yeah,
Gateway
there is
Plaza.
a 3rd one.
Yeah,
It's a gate.
It's actually a gate. Yeah, there's 3 of this card. They're just all not very good. It costs you it's going to cost you a turn.
It's a super tap land. It taps another land.
Yeah, it comes in and taps down another land with it. We don't like that.
Also, you can never play them turn 1.
Yes, very true. That's false, but mostly you can't.
You can always play them turn 1, but you can never play them turn 1 and then untap with a land.
That's false.
Never.
Never.
I'm on record of saying never.
Yeah, he doesn't know what a Lotus Petal is.
I don't. What?
That'd be horrible. I mean,
who is playing Lotus Petal, Rupture Spire? Pay for it. Gotcha. Suck on that.
What kind of weird? That is the ultimate trade binder deck because they only built with stuff they had. They've been playing since like
2003.
Yeah, 2002. They've been playing since 2002, and they have their Rupture Spire and they have their Lotus, and if they're gonna throw it in the deck, and you're not gonna stop them.
Yeah, you are not gonna stop them. I don't think you really should be putting guild gates, gain lands, or any of that stuff. Like you do not need them in your tuned decks.
Yeah, I also
take the hit and play an island.
I thought you were still focused on the trade binder deck.
I feel like we could just do a video on the trade binder deck. I don't even know what we would say, but we could just talk about it with no script for an hour.
Probably, yeah. We could go off on trade binder decks are cool, but also funny sometimes.
There's so many different points to make with those, but I think we're done with this video.
Yeah, we are done with this video. Special shout out to all of our patrons. We love you all as much as we can without making you uncomfortable. You guys are awesome.
Additionally, if you are a patron this month until the end of the month, at the end of the month, we're going to choose one of our patrons at random, and they're going to win a Vidalcan Orrery this time.
Yes, Vidalcan Orrery. We just gave away our foil creator for him. The winner was Scott S. Mercer. We mentioned that last time. He was actually happy. I messaged him.
I would be stoked. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but he literally was like, "Wow, I thought I was just a patron because I love your content and think you guys are funny or something like that." And then and he's like, "But I'm glad that I won this." And he sent me his address because I obviously need to mail it to him.
Turns out we just pay you back if you're a patron. The benefits never stop, folks. Also, if you're not a patron and you don't want to be, you don't have to be. Go to the TCG player link in the description. Navigate where you want. You're going to see probably a bunch of Taplands on that. Navigate where you want. We're going to get a kickback if you buy anything through our affiliate link.
Yeah, if you click through the link, it doesn't matter if you buy what's through the link. As long as you have clicked through that link originally to the site, then you should be good to buy stuff. So tidbit about our life.
Unless you don't want to tell them that you stream 10 a.m. weekdays Eastern Standard Time, but we already did that. So tidbit about our life.
So we talk about lands this whole video. This reminds me of a game we played a while back. A guy, he was a trade binder deck type of guy. He kind of just played what he had, but he had a Omnath Lands Matter deck. And basically his whole deck was based around the red-green Omnath and getting land drops, getting 3/3s, you know,
5/5s,
5/5s, attacking with them, lightning bolting things. The funny thing about this is basically he did his plan. He got so many.
Oh,
And then he got Cyclonic Rifted.
by you.
It doesn't matter. I wasn't the bully here. And he had played like, what was it? The one Join Forces green card that lets you get X lands. He basically got all of his lands out of his
Oh,
deck.
yeah.
So now he couldn't use Omnath at all anymore because all of his basics had already entered the battlefield.
And then he was like, okay, I'll kill you. And you're like, no, they don't die.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
They don't die. I am bouncing them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so sorry to that guy. You got brutalized, but now we're famous. So does that make you feel better?
Yeah, I just thought it's just a random story where it's like he went all in on his game plan. All in, and just like something like Cyclonic was just like, no.
Well, on that savage beat, we're done.
Yeah, peace out, Tribe Scout.